Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting this morning of the Licensing and Regulatory Subcommittee. Croeso pawb i'r cyfarfod bore yma yn Cyngor y Sir yn Bryn Biga. My name's Tudor Thomas, and I am Chair of Licensing and Regulatory. And we'll go through to the agenda, and then we'll do the introductions of everybody so that you know who you're actually talking to. Can we go to item 1 now then on the agenda, please? And that is apologies for absence.
No apologies received, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Secondly, declarations of interest.
None from me.
No, none from me. No. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to the main part of the agenda now then, and that is the application for a temporary premises licence, Dyfodol Festival, Upper Mead Farm, Penallt in Monmouth. So I'll go now then to go to the procedures, but to start with, do the introduction, say, I'm Tudor Thomas, I'm member for Park Ward in Abergavenny, and I chair this meeting. Tony?
Good morning all, I'm local member for Dewsbury Ward in Caldicot.
Good morning, I'm Jackie Strong and I'm a County Councillor for Caldicot Cross, and I've never been to the festival, so I just want to say that.
I'd go to Geraint.
Bore da, everyone. My name is Geraint Edwards, solicitor for the subcommittee.
Morning, I'm Richard Williams from Democratic Services.
Good morning, Taylor Watts, Licensing Officer.
Good morning, Samantha Wynne, Licensing Officer.
Good morning, Richard May. I'm the Chair of Trustees of Dyfodol Hall.
Good morning, Jeremy Horton, Founder and Director of Dyfodol Festival.
Right, thanks. In terms of the procedures, as far as I'm aware, I might be corrected here, but there is no one. There have been some objections to the granting of this licence, but as far as I'm aware, there is no one that is going to turn up today. You're
correct, Councillor, yes. The people who've made the representations aren't able to attend today.
Okay, thanks. Okay. I'll sort of take people through. It's a fairly straightforward procedure, but we'll start with handing over now to Samantha, the licensing officer, and she will present her statement of facts, summarising things like the facts of the application before the panel today, any objections, any representations made by other persons, those sections of the government guidance and licensing policy document applicable to the case, and then the statement of facts, reports, etc., which it will not contain a recommendation. Obviously, it's up to the subcommittee today to actually make that decision, but she will obviously put the licensing point of view. So I hand over now then to the licensing officer, please.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just ask the applicants if they've had sight of the report to be presented today, and the procedure of how the meeting will proceed today, that's fine. I'll hand over to Samantha Wynne to present the report.
Okay, before we start, can I just make sure that you're aware you could have legal representation and you've chosen not to yet? Yeah. Great, okay. So the applicant submitted an application for a temporary premises licence for the 23rd of May to the 25th of May. This was received on the 23rd of January 2025. The application was advertised at the premises in a local newspaper and on the authority's website. The statutory duty of circulating to the consultees was also carried out. At 3.1 of the report, you will see what was requested in relation to regulated entertainment, alcohol sales and late-night refreshment. The applicant also goes on to describe the event. A map showing the surrounding area of the event is also attached as Appendix B. At 3.3, there are the conditions that the applicant has submitted to show how they intend to run the event in accordance with the 4 licensing objectives. Once the application had been circulated, representations were received from the police, and the applicant agreed to these, which were in regards to the prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance and public safety. There's a full copy of the conditions which have been agreed and are at Appendix C. Environmental Health also submitted representations in regards to a noise management plan, and this was agreed by the applicant. This must be in place 28 days before the event. This will be picked up via the Event Safety Advisory Group, ESAG, to ensure this is done before the application or the event actually takes place. Representations were also received from other persons, and they are attached as Appendix D. Unfortunately, the persons were unable to attend the hearing today. The representations surrounded around noise issues, concerns for children and the possibility of gate crashes. Concerns were also raised with regards to traffic management issues. Excuse me. Traffic issues with regards to emergency service access to the event are covered by the traffic management plan attached as Appendix E. This plan has been devised in conjunction with Monmouthshire Highways. The applicant has resubmitted the plan for the event due to concerns being raised over curlews nesting. The new plan is attached now as Appendix F, and you'll see where there's a red area where members of the public will not be allowed to go. Appendix G is also an overview of how the event will be run, which was submitted by the applicant. Now, when considering the representations made against the application, members need to be mindful that when they make their decision, of the 4 key licensing objectives, which are prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and protection of children from harm. Members are also asked to consider the licensing objectives issued under the revised guidance under Section 182 of the Act, and they're attached as Appendix H. Section 4 outlines the reasons for determining the application, and point 4.5 gives an overview of Monmouthshire's policy on prevention of public nuisance, prevention of public nuisance, public safety and the protection of children from harm. Monmouthshire's licensing policy also states at 1.10 that it will not seek to regulate matters which are provided for in any other legislation, and will seek to complement such regimes such as planning, health and safety, employment rights, fire safety, etc. That's the end of the report.
Thank you both for that. In terms of any objectors, obviously the objectors have given written evidence. They're not here today. The police are not in attendance, or any other bodies that we've contacted. And from reading the papers, the police are satisfied. You've actually answered the questions which they've raised, which are fairly standard for any large event. They've given, they've given that advice. You've accepted that, and they've then said that they are happy with that. There are 2 written objections to the event going forward, and obviously they are concerned about the large number of people that will be in attendance, and obviously there will be the consumption of alcohol. Their objections in terms of traffic management is not within the remit of this committee. The committee here today is a licensing committee, and depending on what happens today, if the event is approved, then it will have to go to the ESAG committee for the Monmouthshire County Council, and they will obviously decide on issues such as traffic management and road safety, etc. So purely today we are dealing with the licensing issue, and obviously Mr Geraint Williams here, who's one of the senior solicitors here with Monmouthshire County Council, he will be advising us when we go out from this meeting and go into private session to discuss the application. So there's no one being represented here today. Everybody's had an opportunity to read the objections to this licensing application. So I'm going to hand over now to the 2 applicants who obviously represent the Divorden Festival, and basically you've got 10 minutes to put forward your application. If it's 10:10 now, I'll let you start in 1 minute. If it slightly runs over, I'm not going to object to that, but obviously I can't allow you to go for 20 or 30 minutes, and I will stop you. And obviously feel free today to express your views, and obviously if there's anything that you don't understand, then please ask, don't be overpowered by us sitting up here and the crest behind us, etc. So I'll hand over now to the two applicants to put forward their application for the Divorden Festival. Thanks very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Richard May, and I am here as the Chair of Trustees of Divorden Hall, the charity that runs Hood Memorial Hall in Divorden. Jeremy Horton, who is the applicant for the licence, has run Divorden Festival since founding it in 2010, and he has been assisted since the early years by Scott McKeon of the band Rusty Shackle, who as creative director makes all the music bookings, and by Tim Walker, who's a past chair of trustees, who advises and plans logistics. I'd like to add that none of the organisers are paid. It's an entirely voluntary organisation. We fully understand the concerns that local residents may have and are keen to reassure everyone that the festival will not have the negative impacts that have been suggested by some. And in that context, it's important to explain what the festival is and what it is not. It was started in 2010 in order to raise money for Hood Memorial Hall and continues to be run as a fundraising activity for our community organisation. Our governing document states that we should work, quotes, in the interests of social welfare and with the object of improving the conditions of life of the inhabitants, close quotes. Excuse me. And the festival is a family-friendly event in line with that ethos and with the aims of the charity. It is unequivocally not a badly behaved festival. It doesn't attract, without detracting anyone else, it does not attract the same demographic as, say, the Bolter Festival at Chepstow Racecourse or major national events you may have heard of, such as Bestival and Reading. So the audience is very heavily skewed towards families, comprises a higher percentage of older people than many other similar events. A typical comment that we get in our feedback from survey of visitors, as a first timer it was a lovely atmosphere. We trialled somewhere else in 23 which labelled themselves as family friendly but was definitely not, whereas with you it was fantastic, relaxed, safe and comfortable. We had 315 volunteers on duty at last year's festival, operating as marshals and with other duties, again with paid security over and above that, but it's not an amateur exercise. In 2023, the Welsh Government recognised the blend of volunteers and expertise and gave the festival a 3-year grant to help develop the festival offering. And partly as a result of that funding, the Welsh Government's own economic impact assessment estimated that in 2024, the festival had a positive impact on the local economy of £295,000. That's in addition to the profit that the hall generated for its own funds. We're very proud of that output, as well as the cultural benefits that we've brought to the local area. We realise that traffic is not, as you say, Chairman, that part of the remit here, so I won't go into detail, except to say that the appendix you have, Appendix G, I think it is, was prepared before the detailed traffic plans were laid in conjunction with Monmouthshire Highways, and so Appendix E contains the latest version of those traffic. And although it's not technically part of the committee, we do recognise that traffic can create public nuisance, and therefore I think it's relevant for us to say that we're very, very keen to work closely with the highways. We've employed specialist traffic consultants to make sure that any nuisance, any inconvenience is minimised. Looking at the 4 licensing objectives, first of all, crime and disorder. As you say, the police responded to our licence application with an extensive list of requirements, including high proportion of professional security staff, and they laid down conditions around refusal of alcohol to underage customers. We've accepted all of their conditions without any qualification. And as an example, our volunteer coordinator is currently preparing an online training package for bar staff so that an online package that they have to verify at the end of seeing it to prove they've read it and listened to it, so that they understand fully their responsibilities in terms of serving alcohol to people who should not be consuming it. We operate a zero-tolerance drug policy, and all crime incidents will be reported to the police with any disorder entered into an incident log. The second pillar of licensing, of public safety, we've got, well, the festival organisers in total have many years' experience running large events, supported by professionals. And we work with ESAG every year, submitting an event management plan, noise management plan, general risk assessment, fire risk assessment, fire plan. And our post-event reviews with ESAG after each festival do capture feedback, which lead to lessons being learned for future events, and have always been very productive. Event management has been described as gold standard by the ESAG leadership, and Tim Walker, the other festival director I mentioned, has presented an event organised by ESAG on large event management. So it's an area where we feel very confident. In terms of the prevention of public nuisance, the police conditions and traffic management obviously impact, but in addition, I'd like to draw your attention specifically to the issue of how we manage the sound to minimise nuisance to local residents. We take measurements of noise levels. We follow MCC environmental health guidelines. All the stages will be shut down by 11 p.m. at the latest, and if necessary, the chief electrician will actually turn off the electricity supply to a stage to enforce that. MCC Environmental Health monitors noise levels in the past, and in our review session in 2024, they confirmed that we did not have any sound emanating from the site after the 11 p.m. curfew. We orient stages and speakers away from residential areas. We monitor the stage sound levels and the sound output, and we've already met with Environmental Health to discuss the noise management for 2025. Finally, on the 4 principles of licensing, child safety, the marshals carry radios, and we have clear protocols in place of how to notify if any children are missing. In 2024, any wandering or lost children were taken by marshals to the gazebo staffed by the charity Severn Area Rescue Association. They arrange repatriation to their parents, and a similar arrangement will be in place this year. The site layout creates a large empty, dead, if you like, zone behind the main activity area, or between that area and the perimeter fence. That has a dual purpose. It deters illegal access because people are very visible crossing a very large area, and prevents children from just wandering off. Children will not be, unaccompanied children rather, will not be allowed to leave the festival site and go back, for example, to the car park or the campsite. Marshals will stop them and will return them to SARA for reuniting with their parents. There are wristbands issued to everyone on arrival, and that includes children. And the children wristbands, the parents write the phone number on the inside of the wristband so that we can contact them if a child is in that situation. Finally, it's not specifically part of the licensing criteria, but something that's extremely important to us is the issue of environment and public health. The festival is more than music. It involves children's entertainers. There's a peace field hosting yoga and other complementary therapies, and an arts and crafts zone. There's actually probably as much non-music activities for people to take part in for the whole family as there is music. The majority of people attending do care deeply about the environment, and we have a written environmental policy, reflects our attitude to waste management, wildlife, and use of sustainable materials. Last year, we produced 3 tons of waste, and none of it went to landfill. The Welsh Government introduced new workplace recycling regulations last year, and the author of those regulations visited us on site at the festival and complimented us on the successful implementation of the regulations, which she said other festivals had struggled to do. So we can assure any interested parties that we will protect from harm any species or habitats that are identified to us. In the specific case of curlews that have been seen in a particular field on the farm, we will not use that field, and we will erect warning signs to stop visitors straying into the area or any activity likely to cause a disturbance. So what I've tried to do is reassure residents and the committee that Devorden Festival is responsibly managed and that delivering a safe and enjoyable event is a key aim of the charity. We have at all times worked with the relevant departments of Monmouthshire County Council, local community councils and other authorities to do that, and we'll continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. A very comprehensive setting out of the application. Are there any questions or issues? Now, we'll ask any questions, seek any clarification, and then when that's complete, there'll be closing statements, and then we'll retire to another room and deliberate, and then come back, and I will give the decision, and my legal colleague here, Geraint, will give the rationale, the reasons for for that. Any questions from the subcommittee, please?
Thank you, Chair. I noticed that this is out of Devorden. It's on the way to Monmouth on the top road from Chepstow to Monmouth. I know the road very well, and I also know the lanes off that where the festival is going to take place, and that'll be another matter for the ESAG to sort out. But when we got to the site, it's not like Glastonbury, I don't think, or it may well be eventually. But you mentioned toilet facilities. A big problem with lots of events is that the toilet facilities just do not match up to what's required. They cause chaos. Are you confident that the toilet facilities will be sufficient on the numbers of people who get in there? And are you confident of the disposal of the waste? It says daily, and ensure the public safety in terms of environmental health. Really, the only other question I ask is that, what if we turn this down and you've got it advertised everywhere? The one in Caldicot particularly has been ripped off the fence by Lloyds Bank. Have you got contingency plans should this committee find not to support the application?
Okay. Yeah, so let's deal with the loos first. So absolutely confident. I've been running this event for 14 years. What is evident, doesn't matter how many toilets you've got, you've never got enough, being quite honest. That said, from a provision perspective, we've got a significant number of toilets. In fact, on site this year, off the top of my head, I think we've got probably over 70 toilet cubicles of various types, including disabled provision as well. In addition, what we've done for the last couple of years is basically all toilets receive a daily service, so they're emptied the following morning. So Saturday morning following Friday, a professional company comes in, cleans, empties, and keeps them in pristine condition. We are not Glastonbury, far from it. Our customers expect a decent level of hygiene. We look after the loos during the course of the day, and that includes me going around replenishing the loo roll and cleaning as well. And we're very proud of the condition of the loos. So, in addition to that, disposal of sort of LSAN from camper vans and the like, we are making provision for disposal points. Again, they will be emptied daily. So from an environmental impact and from a hygiene perspective, we're absolutely confident we got it nailed.
Okay, thanks.
Jack. Do you want to deal with the secondary? Do you want to deal with that one, Rich?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, the second question. It's important to note that these things can never happen in perfect sequence, but anyone who has already bought a ticket, for example, That money is not, we don't have that money. That is held by the, in escrow, in effect, by the ticket site. And so if we had to cancel the event for any reason, whether it was because of today or because of some unfortunate incident, all the money would be returned immediately to people who've already purchased a ticket. The charity takes a small risk in as much as there's a ticket handling fee, but we're talking there where the charity, as responsible trustees, can make a decision to expose themselves to that level of expense, but no one would be out of pocket. And in terms of publicity, publicity saying the event won't happen would be just as good as the publicity saying that it is going to happen.
Okay, thanks. Can I just say, really, I thank Councillor Easton for those questions, but really those are questions for you on an organisational level. Our prime concern here today is licensing and making sure, and obviously two people have objected in terms of sound and possible, disruptive behaviour, etc. Those are the key areas that we will look at today, and really we can't take into consideration, in a sense, any loss or whatever on your part. That's an economic, commercial issue. What we want to be clearly assured of in our minds is that the event will fulfil our licensing conditions, and that there will be no disruptive behaviour, and that sound will be managed, etc. So, that's the key criteria today. But I hand over now to Councillor Jackie Strong. Do you want to come in?
I just want to make a couple of comments, if I may. Thank you for your plans. They're really detailed. Really sort of pleased to see your responses to both the police and the objectors as well. I was thinking it was huge sort of, site, and how on earth were you going to sort of manage possible intruders, but you seem to have covered that really well. Although I've never been to, obviously, Devorden Festival, I've been to other ones, and so I get the ethos of it being family friendly. We've been to sort of folk festivals all over, so I get that. The nature of Devorden Festival has always been a positive one to local people, that talk about it. So, and you've obviously got years of experience of running such a large thing. It's a weekend, so to hear you say that, if somebody tries to sort of push the boundaries and go after 11 o'clock, the things will be pulled out, is encouraging to me, because that's one of the things, children's safety, the noise conditions, and that actually just making sure it's a safe space for everyone, really. So thanks for that. I don't think I've actually got any questions, but just to thank you for your report, so thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. As I said earlier, two written objections given, but no one is actually here physically to put them. So normally, if they were present, then I would ask for their final comments, and ask if the responsible authorities, the police or the fire service, were here, then I would ask for their comments. They're not here. The police are clearly, Gwent Police are clearly satisfied with the answers that you've given, that you've responded to them positively, and they are not objecting to this event going ahead. Obviously, there are two objectors, and they obviously don't want the event to go ahead. I just want to give you an opportunity as applicants now to briefly sum up your case. If you want to make any closing statement, before I briefly sum up, and then we'll go into closed session. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't think there's anything new other than to say that although we recognise that today it's the licensing committee, we are at pains to declare our overall intention and purpose, if you like. And again, in terms of inconvenience, I didn't mention something that's happened very recently, which is that Newport Bus have now agreed with Monmouthshire County Council to run additional services to again reduce the level of traffic. We'll have a late night buses, beg your pardon, from the site. There'll be increased frequency during the day, and all of it is intended to create an event that is enjoyable. And I sincerely hope that the people in Penna after the event say that was good. That was really good, and that they come along and enjoy it.
69 bus, is it? The 69 bus.
Okay.
65,
55.
both directions.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Right. Thanks. Anything that licensing wish to add? I think you've given a comprehensive input in terms of your application and of the mitigation. And I say, at the end of the day, issues about traffic, etc., are not for this committee. That's for the East Side Committee. What this committee must deliberate upon now and ensure is that that if it is granted, then obviously that this festival is not going to cause disruption in terms of noise or unruly behaviour, etc., because of the consumption of alcohol and the playing, obviously, of amplified music. So that that's our key sort of criteria today. So we're going to stop at this point. We will go into a separate room now to look at the application. We've obviously spent a lot of time reading it, etc., and looking at the various viewpoints, and then we'll come back and say, I will give the decision, and my legal colleague, Geraint here, will give the rationale for it. So we'll stop. Thanks very much. Diolch yn fawr. Well, welcome back to the meeting. The committee have considered the application and obviously as well looked at the two objections, the written objections that were put in, and obviously we've had the legal input from my colleague here from the legal department. But looking at the evidence and the presentation and the fact that Gwent Police have raised no objections and that you've met all of the requests of Gwent Police and that you've got mitigating factors in place, we've decided that we will grant a licence for the Devorton Festival at Penallt. And I'll hand over now to my legal colleague who will just give a very brief rationale. Thanks. Diolch.
Diolch, Mr Cadeirydd. Just to confirm, the subcommittee has resolved to grant the licence as follows for plays, both indoors and outdoors. Friday, 23rd of May, from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. And Saturday, 24th and Sunday, the 25th of May, from 10 a.m. till 11 p.m. Films, both indoors and outdoors, on Friday from 6 till 9 p.m. Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. until 9 p.m. And then for live music, both indoors and outdoors, as well as recorded music, both indoors and outdoors, and performances of dance, both indoors and outdoors, and anything of a similar description to what has just been mentioned. The licensable hours will be as follows. Friday will be from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday will be from 10 a.m. until 11 p.m. Then late night refreshments, both indoors and outdoors, will be on Friday from 11 p.m. until midnight, and Saturday and Sunday from 11 p.m. until midnight. Supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises will be as follows: on Friday the 23rd of May from 4 p.m. until midnight, and on Saturday and Sunday from 12 noon until midnight. The hours open to the public will be Friday 9 a.m. until midnight, Saturday and Sunday 9:30 a.m. until midnight, and Monday the 26th of May 2025 from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Also, the matters specified in the operating schedule are incorporated as written conditions on the licence. The proposals marked in red in the police representations in the hearing public pack are incorporated as conditions on the licence, and the proposals provided in the environmental health representations contained in the licensing officer's report at paragraph 3.7 of that report are also incorporated as conditions on the licence. Now, in coming to its decision, the subcommittee considered your application, the written representations presented by the interested parties, including Gwent Police, Environmental Health, and the two residents living in the vicinity of the premises, the licensing officer's report recommending consideration of the application, in addition to the oral representations heard today. In addition, the subcommittee considered the Council's licensing policy and Home Office guidance, and in deciding whether or not to grant the licence, the representations were considered to the extent that they were relevant to the licensing objectives under the Licensing Act 2003, that is, the prevention of crime and disorder, the prevention of public nuisance, ensuring public safety, and the protection of children from harm. Representations submitted were disregarded to the extent that they were irrelevant to those objectives, and in the circumstances, particular consideration was given to the following. The police submitted representations which, although not opposing the application in principle, did recommend the inclusion of additional conditions if the licence were to be granted. These proposed conditions relate to a variety of issues involving the festival's events management arrangements, including training, risk assessments, record keeping, traffic marshalling, security staffing, stewarding, anti-drug measures, medical cover, and ensuring disabled access, and were recommended in order to promote the objectives of preventing crime and disorder, preventing public nuisance, and ensuring public safety. The subcommittee understands that these proposals are agreed by by the applicant. The subcommittee commends the police for proposing those measures and to the applicants for agreeing to them. Environmental Health also presented representations via the licensing officer's report, recommending a series of measures with respect to noise management. The subcommittee were informed that these measures are also agreed by yourselves as the applicant. In addition, 2 sets of representations were received from members of the public, nearby residents opposing the application. These representations raised concerns relevant to all 4 objectives. In summary, concerns were raised that granting the licence would likely lead to incidences of gate crashing and illegal drug use as a result of inadequate monitoring of the large perimeter, an increase in burglaries and drunken disorderly behaviour, an increase in traffic on unsuitable roads with limited visibility, an increase in raw sewage, and an increase in noise nuisance disturbance in a rural location with residential properties nearby. Concern was also raised that the festival was an unsuitable environment for young children. The subcommittee would like to thank the applicants and all the interested parties for the representations on this application, and the subcommittee gave appropriate consideration to these. And before discussing the analysis of the representations, the subcommittee should point out that it was satisfied that the concerns raised in respect of the application were sincere ones by local residents. However, the subcommittee was not persuaded that sufficient evidence had been presented to prove that the alleged problems were likely to materialise if the licence were to be granted, let alone reach the threshold of causing harm to the licensing objectives. In any case, the subcommittee was satisfied that the proposed conditions on the licence, including those recommended by the police, would adequately serve to minimise the likelihood of any problems from materialising. Turning first to the objective of preventing crime and disorder, concern was raised that granting the licence could lead to gate crashing and entice illegal drug use as a result of inadequate monitoring of the site perimeter. No basis was given in evidence for asserting that site perimeter monitoring would be inadequate. In any event, the subcommittee was satisfied that the monitoring arrangements in place are adequate, as are the steps proposed to tackle illegal drug abuse. In the circumstances, the subcommittee is not persuaded that the grant would likely lead to gate crashing or illegal drug use. A concern was also raised that grants could lead to an increase in burglaries and drunken disorderly behaviour. In support of this assertion, reference was made to one past incident of a burglary. While the subcommittee was sorry to hear that a resident had been a victim of a burglary, it did not feel that they could reasonably extrapolate from a single incident without any evidence of it being related to past editions of the Divorden Festival or of a similar type event, that burglaries were likely to become a problem if the licence were granted. The subcommittee also noted that the police had not expressed any concern that grants would likely lead to an increase in drunk and disorderly behaviour or burglaries. In the circumstances, the subcommittee, on balance, was not persuaded that granting the licence would undermine the objective of preventing crime and disorder. Turning now to the objective of preventing public nuisance, concern was raised that there would be an increase in noise and that the application would therefore undermine the objective of preventing public nuisance. However, no evidence was given for this beyond general assertions which could be deployed against any proposed licensed premises generally. No explanation was given as to why the festival specifically would create a noise problem, and there was no evidence of the likely number, density or frequency of noise if the licence were to be granted. Without that data, it is impossible for the subcommittee to state if the problems envisaged are likely to reach the threshold of amounting to a problem of public nuisance as defined under common law. In practice, it would be very difficult to reach the conclusion that grants would lead to a public nuisance, given that any licence granted would only last for 3 days in the entire year. Furthermore, it appears that the remarks regarding noise have been done on the basis of speculation, not evidence, which is not a lawful basis for making a decision. The subcommittee have been referred to the case of the Crown on the application of Daniel Thwaites plc against Wirral Borough Magistrates Court 2008 as authority in support of that proposition. In addition to noise, a concern was raised as to an increase in sewage in the event of grant. While presented as a public safety issue, the subcommittee felt that this issue was more relevant to the prevention of public nuisance. In any case, there was no evidence that the generation of sewage by the event would likely pose any problem in terms of either objective. In the circumstances, the subcommittee was not persuaded that the granting of the licence would undermine the objective of preventing public nuisance. In terms of licensing objective of ensuring public safety, concerns were raised as to road safety, the suitability of local road infrastructure and traffic volumes. While road safety and traffic management are not licensable activities as such, it was accepted that these concerns may in principle be relevant to the objective of ensuring public safety. However, these concerns were based again on speculation, not evidence. It was noted that these representations were not supported by the police, fire and rescue, or any other emergency service. It was also noted that the Highways Department of Monmouthshire County Council had not expressed any concern from a road safety point of view either. If the application were to result in traffic posing a risk to road safety, the subcommittee would have at the very least expected that representations from these official agencies would have borne this out. Faced with a lack of evidence and lack of expert input in the field, the subcommittee was not persuaded that grants would likely undermine the public safety objective. Finally, a concern was raised that the festival site would be an unsuitable site for young children. This assertion again appears to be based on speculation, not evidence. Upon considering the application, the subcommittee was satisfied that the festival is a family-friendly event with adequate provision for young children in a safe environment. The subcommittee was therefore not persuaded that grants would undermine the objective of protecting children from harm. While the subcommittee fully understands the concerns of local residents, it must make a decision on a lawful basis on firm evidence which is relevant to one or more of the objectives. And in those circumstances, the subcommittee was satisfied that the application, together with the conditions proposed by the police and environmental health, is compatible with the licensing objectives, and the licence is therefore granted subject to the inclusion of the aforementioned additional conditions. On a final note, Mr. Chair, just to confirm that for the record, that all interested parties in this application have a right to lodge an appeal at Cwmbran Magistrates Court against your subcommittee's decision, and a letter will go out to all the interested parties confirming how to present such an appeal. Thank you, Cadeirydd.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Thank you for that. I don't think there's anything else. Thanks everyone for attending this morning, and I declare the meeting closed. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you. Thank you. Diolch, Geraint. Croeso.